What do you do with emotional injuries created during conflict, arguments, and fights in relationships? More often than not, we don't process it. We remain stuck in it and the relationship suffers. This video explains how to process emotional injuries together for the benefit of both people and the relationship. Hey everyone, welcome here. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. This is Becoming an Expert at Self-Leadership. I'm Maika, a psychologist, and I found another jewel in John Gottman's work that I want to share with all of you. It's a model or steps we can take to process emotional injury that occurs in relationships. When people come together, it's natural that they bring different opinions, perspectives, desires into that relationship, that project, or that interaction. This is actually beneficial, wonderful, rewarding. At the same time, our different perspectives and personal histories can sometimes cause conflict in relationships. And in the course of negotiating and arguing, we may end up hurting each other, especially if the argument becomes heated. I've already talked about how we can avoid that with a soft and gentle approach to conflict resolution. I'll link that video in the description box and the info card section up here. But if we don't process emotional injuries that do occur, we might end up ruminating about them. We might end up feeding resentment and pain that can contribute to emotional distance forming in a relationship, which is, by the way, one of the most active factors when it comes to breakups. In this video, I'd like to share the steps you can take to process emotional injuries so they don't linger in the background of your relationship and cause havoc. Step 1, choose an incident. If you're just getting started with processing emotional injury in your relationship, you might have several incidents to choose from. To start out, don't pick the most painful one. And as a metaphor or mental picture for this talk, John Gottman recommends to envision yourselves on the balcony of a theater discussing the play during a break. The play that you're discussing is the incident you chose, and both of you are the actors. I think this is a great metaphor because it allows you to remain aware of the different perspective you're now taking on this conflict. It's a bird's eye view that allows you to see more. It allows you to see not only the argument itself, which you're not going to continue, but also see how you were talking to each other. While I take you through these steps, I'd like to explain them along a fictitious example of a couple called Stephen and Tyler. They got into a fight about the schooling options for their eldest son, and now they want to process emotional injuries that occurred during that fight. Their goal is not to figure out who was right, but to understand each other better, to understand each other's experiences and perspectives during the argument. Step 2, decide who will speak first. The way this works is that both of you will take on the roles of speaker and listener one at a time. So when partner A is the speaker, partner B listens without interrupting, and then they switch roles. Tyler and Stephen decide that Tyler will speak first. Step 3, partner A shares, partner B listens. For this share, John Gottman recommends these ingredients in this order. Emotions, to share all emotions and feelings partner A had during the fight. The story they were telling themselves that caused those emotions. The vulnerabilities that were activated during the conflict and the history of those vulnerabilities. Needs, what they would have needed in order to feel safer, more calm, and appreciated during the argument. Responsibility, how they contributed to the hurtful nature of the argument from their own view, and an apology for their contribution to the hurtful nature. What's important is not to blame person B. It's not about saying it's all your fault. It's about giving the other person an insight into your inner world and what went on there and why. You're like a reporter sharing the facts. You're not assigning blame. You're not criticizing person B. You're not putting words or intentions into the other person's mouth or mind. Step C is particularly important and a huge opportunity to increase the emotional intimacy in the relationship. It can be very bonding to share each other's vulnerabilities, sensitivities, and triggers so that each partner gains a better understanding of the other partner and can also remain aware of those vulnerabilities in the future. In short, for our example, Tyler's share sounds something like this. I felt hurt during our fight because I had the impression of being misunderstood and criticized on a deep level. This impression and these feelings came up when you said that I didn't really care about our son's education. In that moment, it seemed like nothing I could have said or done would have pleased you, and that also left me feeling hopeless and helpless. I'm very sensitive to that because as a child, I often had to fend for myself. So I had to be more mature and responsible than other kids my age so I wouldn't get hurt. And since that time, I have this need to know what I can do to make things better. I also realized that while we had this argument, I actually had a need to be alone, which I didn't communicate beforehand. So my state contributed to the escalation. I'm sorry for that, and that I didn't really listen and that I wasn't available emotionally. Step 4, partner B shares and partner A listens. When partner A is done sharing, they switch roles and partner B shares while partner A listens without interrupting. Stephen's share is, I felt angry, anxious, and abandoned during our argument. When you answered my questions with one-word sentences, I got the impression that you're not interested or as invested as I am in our son's education. This story that I told myself left me feeling alone. I'm very sensitive to that because in my last relationship, I had to take care of about 90% of our shared responsibilities on my own, and I don't want to go through that again. I apologize for not expressing much appreciation for you and for being overly critical. Step 5, plans for the future. As a last step, each person can reflect on and share the one thing that they want to be mindful of and do or avoid in the future, and a suggestion for one thing their partner can be mindful of or do or avoid in the future so that conflict resolution is gentle and effective instead of emotionally injuring. This is what Tyler and Stephen came up with. In the future, Tyler wants to remember to express more about his current state so that Stephen has an easier time assessing whether it's a good moment to address issues. His idea for Stephen is that Stephen could signal more that he trusts that Tyler cares about their family. And Stephen wants to be mindful of not attributing intentions to Tyler. And his idea for Tyler is that Tyler could be more expressive with the inner involvement that they both know is there. What I've seen over and over when supporting others in and through conflict situations is what a difference it makes to talk about our inner worlds and how healing that can be. This is what creates clarity, strengthens our bonds, and increases the emotional intimacy in relationships. What matters is not so much what you're disagreeing on, but how you work through that and how you treat each other along the way. Thanks for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you're new here and you'd like to stay connected to the channel, remember to hit the subscribe button. Also, interacting with the video in the form of thumbs up, shares, and or comments also always helps. Thanks again. Till next time, take care, and remember how important it is to process emotional injury instead of ruminating on it and not allowing it to heal.